Hello, everyone. My name is Robin Bady, and I am a teaching artist with Flushing Town Hall, where we believe global arts for global kids. Well, one good thing is coming out of this pandemic. Odd to think about, but it's all about food. You see, my husband and I are usually so busy. My husband, Tom, we get to have breakfast together now. And my breakfast is almost always the exact same thing. It's toast, whole wheat toast, with jam. Well, one day I noticed we were just about out of jam. And truth be told, I just didn't want to go put my mask on and put my gloves on and go to the store and wait in line, the whole 9 yards. And I remembered that I had a lot of lemons and I had a lot of sugar. And that made me realize I could make something with that. Now, originally, we were going to have a party and I was going to go and make lemonade for all our friends and family. But I decided I was going to do something I'd been thinking about for a year. For you see, my brother lives in Germany and we had gone to visit him. And my brother, he makes things all the time. I mean, food things. He loves to cook and bake. He made marmalade, and it was so good. I decided I was going to make marmalade too. But, all this time had passed, and I hadn't, taken the time, and didn't have a recipe for it. But here I am with all the time in the world, and all I have is lemons and sugar and an idea. So I look up for recipes. I couldn't find any of my cookbooks. So I did what we do as much as we can these days, right? We need something, we go to Mr. Google. So I looked for a recipe and I found one. And it was not just a recipe, but a British recipe, because I always think marmalade comes from England. Well, I don't know if it does, but that's what I think. And I thought, this is going to be great. And so I get all my lemons out. I have 10 lemons and I get like, oh, I don't know. I think I had 5 pounds of sugar. And I did everything they said. I washed those lemons. I filled a pot of water and started it cooking, boiling. And then I put the lemons in and I waited and waited. And then I added sugar. Oh, I think they said 2.5 liters. Well, I can't remember what that turns out to be. Something like four, and I always add more, 5 pounds of sugar. I pour it in and it's cooking, and it's cooking, and it's cooking. And I'm supposed to wait until the skin gets soft. So finally, the skin gets soft, and I pull out these lemons, and they are so hot. But I do what they tell me. I squeeze out the juice and then I pick out the pips, which is the seeds, and I put them in a little dish. And I scoop out the insides, and then I lay that lemon flat and I cut it into little strips. And then I take all of that except for the seeds and I put it back into the boiling water and add a little more sugar just for good luck. And I wait. Now you have a kind of boil that's like it doesn't like burn, but it's just so that you can keep stirring it and it'll still boil. And I waited for it to thicken to be jelly or jam jelly. And I waited and I waited and I waited and it went hour after hour after hour. And I was glad that I started about 10 in the morning because at 5 o'clock it didn't seem finished. Well, I looked up the recipe again and I saw, oh, add more lemon and add more sugar. And luckily I had some more sugar. And so I added some lemon juice and cooked it and cooked it and cooked it. And it must have been 9 o'clock at night where it seemed finally to pass the wrinkle test. The wrinkle test? That means you take a plate and you put it in the freezer, you let it get really cold, and then you put it out. You get a little spoonful of that marmalade and you put it on that frozen plate, and then you wait a minute, and then you push it, push it. And if it wrinkles, and I didn't know what wrinkles would look like, but I knew them when I saw them. They wrinkled. Then it's ready. So finally, 9 o'clock at night, it's ready. And I take it and I pour it into glass jars that I've carefully sterilized. I didn't have fancy jars, so I just took all the old jars, the glass jars we had, and cleaned them and washed them and sterilized them. Did everything the recipe said. And when I looked at it, I realized something. Here's one of them. As you can see, it's a dark amber. Now, when I think of marmalade, I think of orange marmalade, and it's always a light orange. This was a dark amber. And when I opened up the jar to just taste it, it was really sweet. And when I reached down for that part of the marmalade I always loved, which was the candied peels of the orange, they were like shoe leather. Then Tom came and he had some on a piece of bread and he said, "This is terrible. I can't, I mean, it tastes good, but I can't eat these peels. What am I going to do?" I took the whole thing, I poured it into a blender, I turned the blender on, and voila, it all got beat up and it started to look like this, where it settled down at the bottom. It was still amber, but at least we could eat the peels. Well, I got to tell you, this morning I made my toast. And I took that marmalade that I had made and I ate it, and it was so good. It was really good. I don't need any jam for a while. But I just kept wondering, why wasn't it orange or lighter yellow? Because it was lemon, for goodness sake. And that's when I reread the recipe. I had done the whole thing wrong. Well, not the whole thing, but the most important part, which is you don't add the sugar until you cut up everything, and then it happens quickly. Oh my goodness, I had wasted hours. Well, I guess I didn't waste. I made a whole new jam, which I guess I could call amber marmalade. And I am going to go ahead and make the other one because now I'm really curious. And once I want to make something, I'll find a way the next time we go shopping. And when we're finished with all the several plus jars of this stuff, I am going to make marmalade, orange marmalade, the right way. So now I wonder about you. What have you been cooking? What have you enjoyed cooking? What is different that you've been cooking? Is there something you want to cook that you've never even imagined cooking before? Think about it. What's the story there? And then tell it to your mom or your dad or your friend or your grandma. Take your story and share it, because that's what we do with stories.